What's going on, everybody? This is Brian Mazik, aka Unique Mazik. I am the hardest working man in sports and gaming, and it's my pleasure to be back here for another episode of Heavy Presents. I'm just saying with Brian Mazik, and as Brian Mazik, I am with three other gentlemen. What is going on, Mr. Reyna, Lorenzo Reyna? He is a heavy on Niners beat writer. How you doing today, sir?
I'm doing good, and hopefully everybody had a Merry Christmas, including all you guys.
I did. You got a look on your face like you making a gangster rap album. So I'm gonna let you know what's going on. You got it. You got your black sweatshirt on, like
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 Death
you
Row Records or
like
maybe
you straight
Grand
out of
Theft Auto
Compton or
with
something.
Dr.
I don't
Dre.
know what
Yeah,
was going on. You know
yeah,
what I want
yeah.
to say? I feel like I look pretty good today on camera. I don't know what it is.
You glowing up,
Something
man.
is
You're
something.
glowing. Yeah, it's that glow.
It's
Man, I
probably
must
the
be
hat.
pregnant.
Mm.
I mean, no.
Although
How
one
you
of us
doing
is clean
today?
shaven. Yeah, one of us
Ryan
is clean. Yeah,
Snudo, heavy on
yeah,
Cardinals
Mr. Clean
beat
Shave.
writer. Yeah, well, I'm sexy, Lorenzo.
Looks good. I think it's the hat, maybe. I think the
Is
hat.
that what it is?
Yeah, it might be the
Maybe that
hat.
is it. I mean, I
Yeah,
do love the Cubs. I've loved them
looks
my
good.
whole
Looks
life.
good.
So it just
Mm.
is what it is. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing well. I mean, maybe not the Cardinals, even though they're in the playoffs right now. But I
Mhm.
mean, you gotta do what you gotta do. Thank you to the Vikings for losing to the Rams on
Yeah.
Sunday. Appreciate that. So we'll be seeing Cardinals playoff football for the first time since 2015.
Yeah. It's
The
looking a
Rams
little
are
rough.
49ers are thankful too, Ryan.
Yeah.
The
Oh,
49ers are very thankful.
oh
Yeah,
man.
it's looking a little rough lately, but we definitely gonna get into the Cardinals troubles later. How you doing, Mr. Esden Jr.? How you doing, sir?
Very well. You guys are talking about playoffs. Hey, tell me when you beat the Jaguars, okay? Number one pick, Trevor Lawrence, okay? Come at me when you guys are doing those kind of things, when we're checking off those kind of items off the bucket list. Thank you very much. Happy holidays.
49ers did beat the Jaguars, so
Okay, great. Okay. Yeah. So what
I
can you
think
do
like
for me
every
now,
team.
Lee?
yeah.
Not what you did for me in the past.
I think Alabama beat the Jaguars, so it's okay. You
That's
know.
possible.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
possible.
All right, guys, let's jump into what we're talking about this week on the NFL scene. Pretty eventful week in the NFL, and it's just wrapping up here on Monday night. But let's start off with this: the Patriots have gone from being a team that people were talking about. This might be, Bill Belichick's best coaching job of his career, and it's still a pretty good job.
Hmm.
And they look like a Super Bowl contender. We're talking about Mac Jones, like he is going to be the offensive rookie of the year. He's already established himself as a franchise quarterback. All of these things are being said. Then suddenly hit with this 2 game losing streak. They got outplayed by the Indianapolis Colts on primetime football. Then they got outplayed again on Sunday at home against the Buffalo Bills in a very important rematch. Suddenly they are 9-6 in second place because of tiebreakers with the Bills. And the whole postseason situation is set up is the chances of them catching the Bills seems pretty slim because Buffalo would have to get upset in one of their last 2 games, and it's like they have
Hmm.
the Falcons and
The
the
Jets.
uh the Jets in the last two
Right,
games. So doesn't seem like that's gonna happen, even though we do have to realize the Buffalo did lose to the Jaguars earlier this year. So it can happen.
right.
But the Patriots have the Jaguars and the Dolphins, who have been playing really good football lately, even though Ryan Snudo says they've been playing like trash teams. But it is what it is. So if I think we know if the Patriots win both of their games, they finish the season 11-6, they'll be in. Um, Even if they don't win the division, they'll be in. But 10-7, it could get a little dicey at 10-7. So at this point, I gotta ask you guys, and I'll answer first. What do you guys think about the Patriots' playoff hopes at this point? I think that New England finds a way to win the last 2 games. I don't think the game against the Jaguars is going to be quite as easy as people think. The Jaguars are in a position now where they can relish kind of being the spoiler
Hmm.
for a lot of different teams, and they can rally together. And those are some dangerous teams. They're dangerous, especially if you let them stay in the game early on, and believe that they can win going into halftime. If you jump on them early, they start waiting for their next loss, and they just kind of accept it and go through the motions. But if New England doesn't get on them early, that could be a very tough situation. I think they also beat Miami, which is going to be a tough game. So I think they're going to make the playoffs at 11-6. But I want to know what you guys think. What do you say, Lorenzo?
I am starting to worry, but I would say like my worry level right now for the Patriots is about 40%, and I still believe 60% of me says that they're still going to be a lock for the playoffs. I mean, you mentioned the Jaguars. Here's another element on how you could beat Jacksonville. Go straight to the running game. That's what the 49ers did. They managed to wear them down with like misdirection runs, outside sweeps, all that. And we obviously saw that game where Mac Jones only threw like 3 passes, and they ran right through the Bills. I think that philosophy could work. Miami is probably the one big trap game. I mean, I'm obviously watching the Dolphins right now. I'm sure you guys are too. They're playing lights out right now. They're getting hot at the right time. So I have a feeling that's going to be the Sunday night NBC game, the flex game, and that's going to determine what eventually happens to not just the Dolphins and their playoff hopes, but what happens to the Patriots. Do they get the 6th seed, maybe at the highest the 5th seed? But my worry level, it's not as high, but yet there's still that worry element.
Okay, Ryan, what do you say? Are you worried about the Patriots' playoff hopes?
I'd say zilch, because I'm looking at the chances right now. FPI from ESPN is at 97% to make the playoffs. It's all about, winning the division. If you were a Patriots fan a couple weeks ago, you thought you had it in hand. You thought the Bills were just going to roll over and take that division. Instead, the Bills just own you in Foxborough. And I got to say, like, I'm not worried about the playoffs. I'm just worried about when they're in the playoffs, man. Right now, they're projected to play the Bengals, and if you saw that Bengals offense on Sunday, man, they just look just like the Bills on Sunday. And the fact that New England just keeps losing in Foxborough, I can't tell their identity right now. I mean, is this a team that is coached by Bill Belichick? Because they usually own Foxborough. Opponents usually come in there and, shrivel and just don't, play under pressure. And I'm just seeing a team that's 3-5 on the road. I'm seeing a team that is really like out of sorts on defense, not covering wide receivers every single second. And Diggs is just, cursing fans. If you saw after that touchdown, I mean, it's like obviously Brady's not there. Okay, that's one thing. You have a rookie quarterback in Mac Jones, but I mean, they just totally disrespect you in Foxborough. I'm worried about them when they're in the playoffs. And maybe they play a team in the Bengals and, they don't have the experience and they whip Cincinnati on the road, because that's what they've been doing. They went on the road. But let me tell you, if the Patriots are at home, it's crazy to say I'm not as confident for some reason when they're at home. And the stats don't lie. That's a thing, apparently. And I got to say, that in Bill Belichick's world, that should not be happening.
Yeah, it's a tough situation. I don't know that there's an actual thing to them playing or losing at home. I think it's just been the matchups that they've had at home. I think that's what we're seeing. I
totally get that. I'm usually the one that never talks about home and away, but this is an 8-game sample size now. I mean, this is I don't understand it. I get it. In Buffalo, it was Arctic, weather, and they just completely, had the game plan, and Buffalo didn't. But I mean, the Patriots, they didn't seem to have it from the get-go. They get the ball first and they don't do anything. And yeah, it's just unlike the Patriots.
Yeah, the way it breaks down is, if the Patriots win one of their last 2 games, then they're pretty much a virtual lock. The only way they won't make the playoffs is if they lose both, and there's still a chance they could get in the end. But if they lose both, they more than likely won't make it. What do you say, Paul?
You know what? I'm going to be honest. My worry level is a 0. It is negative. New England is, of course, going to make the playoffs. And you know what? I want to go one step further, because, I'm feeling a little something. I'm feeling inspired. I want to make a guarantee that Bill Belichick is going to add to the trophy case. He's going to add to the trophy, the championship mantle this season. I absolutely guarantee it that Bill Belichick, up next to the 6 Super Bowls with the New England Patriots, all on the shelf, he's going to put right up there in that missing spot that we all leave on our shelf for something real nice, a beautiful, unbelievable, attendance trophy, a participation trophy for the playoffs.
There you go. I was waiting
They're
for
going to
it.
be one and
I was
done,
waiting
baby.
for that.
I was waiting for it.
Finito. They're going to be done. They're going to make it. Sure. Hell, yeah. They're going to be there. No problem. But in terms of the length of that trip, I mean, I'm going to be on the couch. They're going to soon be joining me. So that participation trophy, the attendance trophy, guaranteed that's going in Bill Belichick's trophy case. Phenomenal. It's going to be great because guess what? The analytics, we were hearing that a little bit earlier, that the Bills and Patriots will play again. And they're going to play again this time in Buffalo's court if everything holds true, with Buffalo having all the tiebreakers. And Mac Jones will get to see, wow, this is what the playoffs are about. And then boom, booted, outie, see ya, peace out. So that's what's going to happen. So again, Bill Belichick guaranteed to make the playoffs and guaranteed to add to that trophy case. That's going to look really nice. An attendance trophy. After missing it last year, he'll be right back. One and done.
Maybe that's his New Year's resolution. Maybe that was the secret. Maybe that's what it was.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Question was amazing. I have to ask you though, Paul. Do you blame the last two losses on Mac Jones or Bill Belichick?
Yes. I mean, come on. I mean, obviously, you have to blame both of them, but more so, I mean, I got to blame Mac Jones. I mean, in that Indianapolis game, he had looked this guy that was, ooh, wow, he doesn't make turnovers. Wow, he's so efficient. Look at the last 4 or 5 weeks. He's got one of the worst PFF ratings of among the quarterbacks. I mean, it's disgusting. So he couldn't get it done in the Indianapolis game and tried to turn it on in that fourth quarter and try to catch up. Sorry, didn't play 4 quarters of football. And some guy named Jonathan Taylor is pretty good. And in this Buffalo game, we saw the difference that when Mac Jones is playing with the lead, running the football, got a nice defense, he can be fine. But Josh Allen is spectacular. He could run through people. J.C. Jackson was tackling his own players. I don't know what was happening there. It was ole, ole. Okay, so Josh Allen has the spectacular. He can win you games. Mac Jones can try to not lose you games. That's the difference. So it's the Mac Jones factor. It's not having that engine in the car. He can get you from A to B. I mean, so can a soccer mom minivan. But quite frankly, the Ferrari, that engine, that 0 to 60, that makes your passenger go ooh la la in the car in 4 seconds, that's the spectacular that, quite frankly, Mac Jones doesn't have one iota in his body.
I'm glad I asked. All right, let's switch gears to the Steelers, guys. Obviously, there's going to be a new quarterback in place. I think everybody knows it. I think Terry Bradshaw knows it. I think Lynn Swann knows it. I think John Stallworth knows it. Everybody knows it. So, if I had to ask you guys, who is your, what's your best guess for the person who's going to be a Steelers starting quarterback next year? Who would that person be? I'm going to start it off. I've said this before, and I'm going to tell you, I would like to see this particular gentleman remain where he is. I really would. But there was a lot of hoopla yesterday about the fact that it might have been his last home game. But I would like to see Cam Newton get an opportunity to play at the beginning of a season with an offense. Like, I really wonder. I know Mac Jones played pretty well this year, and I've been a proponent of his. I've supported him. I think he's had a solid rookie season. But I have never let go of the fact that I wonder what this offense would look like if Cam Newton was the quarterback. Because there are time periods where you look at Mac Jones, you're like, okay, I'm seeing this pass that you threw. I see how you played in this situation. I'm seeing that they're not allowing you to throw the ball very much at all. Anyway, you're leaning on the run game. And then when you factor in the fact, if you put in the context of having Cam Newton also as an additional weapon in the run game, and you put that in with what the Patriots are doing this year, to me, it almost seems like it makes them a more dangerous team. That's just me. I don't know. And so I would just love to see Cam get an opportunity to play quarterback from the beginning of the season. This thing he got in Carolina was not a real solid evaluation. Their offensive line is terrible. Didn't get a chance to learn the system at all. It is what it is. But if he does not go back to Carolina and get a full season there, I would like to see him get an opportunity in Pittsburgh. What about you, Lorenzo?
I'm going to go with 2 options, actually.
You can only have one.
No, only one? I knew you were going to say that. I'll go with one. So the one guy, and I know we're going to get to him a little bit later on the show, but I feel like with the way the system is structured in Pittsburgh and the way that, they have a young, fast rising running back, they could go back to their philosophy of being run first. It fits this guy perfectly. Jimmy Garoppolo. His days are numbered in San Francisco. We're going to save that for later, but, he's in it. Najee Harris, it takes so much pressure off of him. Then you have Juju Smith-Schuster, who's sort of like their Deebo Samuel, their versatile Swiss Army knife guy. So I think that change of scenery could also help Jimmy G.
Yeah, and there's Deontay Johnson, there's Chase Claypool. That's a really solid tight end, Pat Fryermuth. They have some weapons. For sure. So there's a lot of quarterbacks that would probably love to get an opportunity to fall in there. So yeah, I think it's very interesting. I do think Jimmy would do very well if he can stay upright, which is something we'll talk about
a little bit later.
What about you, Ryan?
I'm going to say they're going to get a rookie quarterback in this next year because, they pick Najee Harris in the first round, even though I don't like that rule, taking a running back in the first round. But I think they got to get younger. I mean, you got a fossil at quarterback, a guy that can't move, basically a corpse at quarterback. I mean,
he's called him a corpse.
Big Ben. I've called him a corpse. I mean, it's
Big
the tough
Ben
truth.
is what they called him.
It's the tough truth, Steelers fans. So, I mean, you got to come to grips with it. He's gone. He's done. He's over with. Big Ben, and you got to get a new quarterback. And yeah, there are, quarterbacks out there in free agency, not free agency, but, in the trade market, Jimmy Garoppolo or Cam Newton. But I just think they got to start from scratch. I mean, they got to start getting some, talent at quarterback, a younger guy. And I'm not a big fan of this quarterback class, but I'm going to go with Matt Corral.
Yeah.
A guy that I've been looking at mock drafts around that teen area, around the 20s. And if the Steelers don't make the playoffs, they could very well be around that 17-16 range. And they could very well trade up for a quarterback. And I know it's tough, Steelers fans, but I mean, you got to, get into the new. I mean, it's going to be 2022 very soon. You can't just go for a bridge quarterback and just say to yourself, okay, this is good. This is the answer. They're not equipped right now to just get a sort of like a bridge quarterback to win. I mean, you look at that division right now with the Bengals, the Ravens, I mean the Browns. I mean you're looking at a lot of these teams now in the league, and they're just young. And you're looking at Big Ben. I mean, okay, you go from Big Ben to what? Teddy Bridgewater? No. To guys that are like 30, 31, Andy Dalton, guys like that. No, I mean, you got to find something. You got to find a foundation. And first of all, I even doubt the Steelers even do this, by the way, but they should think about getting a quarterback in this draft class. They got to start thinking about it. They've pretty much forgotten about the quarterback, room, saying to themselves, okay, we got Big Ben, we're good to go. But I mean, I think the time is now. They got to start thinking about another direction.
I can actually kind of back up what you just said with a reference to probably the only team in the NFL, maybe the Packers, who can kind of relate to the level of consistency at quarterback that the Steelers have enjoyed over the course of Roethlisberger's career. They haven't had a quarterback controversy. He's been the guy. So the Patriots had a similar situation. And of course, they did have the Cam Newton year. But ultimately, they dropped down and took a quarterback in the first round in Mac Jones. And they seem to have found the guy who is going to be their guy moving forward. So the Steelers can look at that kind of situation and say, well, look, the Patriots, we all seem to believe they're going to be in the playoffs, have been able to find the right rookie quarterback and take them to the playoffs. The Steelers have far more weapons on offense than New England has this year. And if that worked for them, then yeah, I do hear you with Matt Corral. But here's an even sexier potential rookie pick for them, which is Pittsburgh's quarterback, Kenny Pickett. 42 touchdown passes to 7 interceptions. He's considered like the next best QB prospect. He's a homegrown kind of a kid because he's actually from New Jersey, but he's played for Pitt. I mean, if you're trying to hand it off to somebody who the fan base is going to be behind, whom you also potentially like as a prospect, I think piggybacking on what you're saying, throwing another name in there, Kenny Pickett would be a pretty solid transition from Ben Roethlisberger, I would say.
Hey, I think you could just pick anyone from a hat because I'm not in love with any of these quarterbacks. I mean, you could just say to yourself, blindfold, just pick one of them. Sam Howell, okay, fine. Malik Willis, fine. But this is really, I mean, this draft class is so unsexy. I know Steelers fans, but I mean,
we'll see.
We'll see, man.
We'll see. It's real early. I hear that a lot. And people talk about either how bad a class is or how fantastic it is. And as much talk as we heard about this particular rookie class for quarterbacks, it's been pretty underwhelming. And almost all of them have gotten an opportunity to play, except for Trey Lance. So we'll see. You never know. It might turn out that Matt Corral and Kenny Pickett are the two best rookie quarterbacks we've seen in the last 10 years. It's just we don't know yet. We'll see. What about you, Paul?
I will say, Ryan saying, the Steelers got to start thinking about this. Got to start. I hope they've been thinking about this for the last decade.
They haven't.
I mean, Jesus. No, clearly not. But I'm just saying that, Jesus. What was the plan? Like, Mason Rudolph? Dwayne Haskins?
Dwayne Haskins.
Or Doug Hodges.
Yeah, there you go, Duck Hodges. I think Brian was barking up the right tree, so I'm gonna go in a similar vein, a mobile quarterback, because I was seeing Big Ben get mugged and his wallet stolen behind that trash offensive line there in the Steel City. So I'm gonna go for a guy that can, quite frankly, run for his life because he's gonna have to. Give me the former Heisman Trophy winner Marcus Mariota. I believe, again, a classy guy, class act, never been in problems off the field. That could be a guy that fits in with the Pittsburgh scheme, the Pittsburgh, philosophy and what have you. And plus, I think, highlight your best asset. I think having a mobile quarterback will boost Najee Harris, a guy that, quite frankly, while he's put up some nice numbers, when you really take a look at the advanced metrics, like, he has a terrible yards per carry. That's mostly because of that trash offensive line. Look at the play on Sunday against the Chiefs where he's hurdling guys and juking, and then, at the end of it, you're like, wow, that was cool. Gain of 1 yard. What just happened there? I mean, he has to do Barry Sanders-ish kind of stuff to do anything, quite frankly. But give me Mariota, a guy who, normally when you fail somewhere, you immediately get another chance. So he fails with Tennessee, the Ryan Tannehill, kind of dart throw works out for Tennessee. Then he was a backup with the Raiders. He never got that immediate chance to be a starter again. So he went back, cryogenically frozen there with Las Vegas, and now he can burst out and become that quarterback that I think a lot of us thought he could be, obviously coming out of Oregon. So again, give me Mariota, a former Heisman Trophy winner, a guy who is mobile. I think he'd be a great fit with Pittsburgh, man.
Interesting. I like that one too. I really do. I really do like that one. I think all of those were pretty good suggestions. So we'll see which way the Steelers go. It'll probably be something completely different.
I think I had Mariota going to the Browns in a question, I think, a couple of weeks ago. So maybe one or the other. We'll see.
We'll see. He'll be in the AFC North either way if you guys have your way.
Yeah.
All right. So let's talk about these 49ers. Jimmy Garoppolo. Just stop me if you've heard this before, but he is, again, injured. He suffered what a source told ESPN's Adam Schefter was a torn ulnar collateral ligament of the right thumb, as well as a fracture in the same thumb. So, I mean, so here's the thing. Here's what's kind of weird about this whole thing to me, right?
Sure.
They have not said, if he's out or not.
No.
And here's why that's kind of bewildering to me. He's right-handed.
Yeah.
And he plays quarterback.
Yep.
And he's got a torn ligament in his thumb and a fracture in his thumb.
Yeah.
But they're telling us that his status for the next week's game is unknown. Unless I have no idea what we're going to see here. But if something's wrong with this, it's going to be difficult for me to see how that's going to happen.
Or go southpaw.
I'm telling you. So if, say for instance, Trey Lance does have to play, he did take all of the first team reps at practice. Say he does have to step in and play. And if the injury is the way it sounds, it would seem as though there's a possibility that Jimmy G could be out not only for the Texans game, which they could probably win that game if I was the quarterback. But at the end of the season, they have the Rams. So, what is the panic? Now, think about this. Let's think about this from a record standpoint, right? The 49ers right now are 8-7, far from having anything locked up. Okay, they could finish as high as 10-7, obviously, but they are in a dogfight with the Philadelphia Eagles, to some degree, the Minnesota Vikings, maybe to a lesser degree, the Falcons and the Saints, who lost on Monday night. All of them for this final, for one or two of the final spots in the playoffs, because the Cardinals already locked up a spot, and so did the Rams, and then of course the Cowboys and the Packers have already clinched their division. Where are you at from a panic level spot with this, Paul, when it comes to the Niners trying to win potentially without Garoppolo for the final 2 weeks of the regular season?
Weirdly, I'm probably more encouraged. I'm like, oh, thank God he's out. Now we can see Trey Lance. But at the same token, and I'm going to explain why I feel that way, the other part is like, if what I'm saying is true and Trey Lance pops here, right, through the final 2 games, and then they go on this mini run in the playoffs, like, why didn't they do it before? What are they not seeing in practice? That is, again, because they're paying Jimmy G a ridiculous amount of money. They gave up all these picks for a guy who's holding a clipboard. Apparently, he's holding a clipboard better than anyone I've ever seen. So that's great to hear in practice. He's got a firm grip on that clipboard. Nobody else can beat him for that firm grip on the clipboard. But the fact of the matter is, if he shows any chutzpah, then the 49ers have been idiots this entire time. If he stinks, then Jesus, you made one of the worst trade-ups in history by moving up for a guy that has done nothing. And to think that they're in a playoff position and they basically lit a bunch of picks on fire that could have been immediate help somewhere on this team. God knows what they could have used if they just stayed where they were in the draft and just picked an impact player that could have helped, whether it was corner, all the injuries that have happened, wide receiver, offensive line, whatever. But the fact of the matter is they used all those picks for a guy that's barely contributed this year. So, that's kind of a concern. But I'm going to go on the positive side. I'm going to be optimistic. I think this is great because Jimmy Garoppolo, and we kind of used this comparison for someone earlier in the show, he is limited in what he can do. He can manage a game. And every once in a while, he'll give you a Captain Kirk Cousins, nice little game like against the Bengals. You're like, hey, there he is. That's Jimmy G. He can do something every once in a while. But again, the ceiling is limited. Trey Lance, I mean, we've seen some of the star power. It's been flashes, no consistency yet. But I'm highly encouraged that the ceiling for the 49ers suddenly increases dramatically having Trey Lance in the game. So I think this is almost addition by subtraction, to be honest with you.
Well, I'm going to say I really couldn't disagree with you more on like multiple points.
Spectacular.
First and foremost, I don't think that if Trey Lance plays now, then that is an automatic indication that he should have been playing earlier. I definitely think it is very understated, or very people don't give enough credit to how sitting, waiting, absorbing, learning the NFL game, learning an offense can impact the guy. When you are, especially when you're talking about a rookie, the guy you see if he played at week 1 is not the same guy that you'll see if he sat and learned and then got an opportunity to truly play in week 17. It's not the same guy. So even if he does play in week 17 and balls out, that does not mean that you would have gotten that same performance from him earlier. Ideally, so the Bears and the 49ers in very similar situations. They had veteran quarterbacks whom they wanted to start from the beginning, and they did not want to play their young quarterback, their rookie quarterback, early. The Bears were forced into doing it because Andy Dalton got hurt in the first week. So they had to play Trey Lance. And the 49ers were able to kind of hold off a bit because Jimmy Garoppolo has stayed a little bit more upright than he has traditionally, or for a little bit longer, right? So they haven't had to break glass and grab Trey Lance out. I actually wish, as a person who has been a lifelong Bears fan, that the Bears had an opportunity to play decent football throughout the season with Andy Dalton, and not having Justin Fields rushed out there on the field, take these lumps both figuratively and literally that he's taken through this season for a team that wasn't going anywhere anyway. So that, to me, I think there's a value in that. So I disagree with the fact that if he does play well, then that's an indication that he should have been playing all along. I also don't necessarily say that Jimmy's just a game manager. I've never truly had a problem with Jimmy Garoppolo's game beyond the fact that he struggles to stay healthy. Outside of that, I think he's a solid quarterback, decent talent. I don't think he's a spectacular guy, but I would not put him in a "we hope you don't lose us the game" category. I think he's more than that. And so putting all that together to answer this question, my panic level for the Niners is pretty high if Jimmy can't come back.
Wow.
Because this is, I'm not saying Trey Lance is incapable of producing in this situation, but this is the last situation I would want to have to throw my rookie quarterback in, who throughout the season thus far has thrown a total of 48 passes. Now, he hasn't been trash, but 52% completion rate is not something to go writing home about. So I will say this, he's mostly taking care of the football. He has only one pick in those 48 pass attempts. This is not the ideal situation for him to be jumping into. He's in the middle of a just all-out brawl for a final 2 playoff spots. And you got to lean on him heavily and or try to protect him during this time period. So my panic level is actually pretty high for this team.
Wow.
Especially if Jimmy G is not back for a week 18 battle on the road against the Rams that you gotta have, and Trey Lance is the quarterback. I'm a little scared. What about you, Lorenzo?
My panic level is also high, and here's the reason why. The 49ers, they may be in a situation where they play the Rams back-to-back weeks, and you got Trey Lance going against Aaron Donald. You got him going against Von Miller. You got him going against Jalen Ramsey. And he's a young rookie. His eyes are probably going to be the size of the state of California in that particular moment. I mean, we bashed Jimmy Garoppolo, and I know last week Paul called George Kittle, he's made out of glass. I'll say Jimmy Garoppolo's made out of plexiglass with all the injuries that he's had. But you know what? To Jimmy G's credit, he's been in the situation where he's taken a team to the playoffs and they made a deep run. I mean, this is the time of year where you do have to have that experience at QB, much to the chagrin of the 49er fans who go on heavy on 49ers, lining up Jimmy G saying, "Oh, joy to the world, we got Trey Lance behind center." Problem is this, it's like, outside of the Houston Texans, and I do have to remind people, the Texans beat a pretty good Chargers team on Sunday, that disrupted their playoff pursuit. But you had the Rams the following week, and the Rams are rolling right now. And then you end up at the number 7 seed. You could still perhaps get either Dallas or Tampa Bay. I mean, it's like my panic level is starting to get higher than ever.
Yeah, man, I'm going to tell you, people can say what they want to say about Jimmy Garoppolo, but if I was a 49ers fan, I would be scared to death if he can't play these final 2 games. Wow. What about you, Ryan?
I'm going to poo-poo all of that, what you guys were saying about the yards after the catch merchant in Jimmy Garoppolo. I mean, he benefits from, all these nice Kyle Shanahan, offensive mastermind plays with Debo and George Kittle and the fullback. How many times did he throw the ball against the Packers in the championship game 2 years ago? 6, I think. 6 passes. That was very cute. Yeah, that was very cute. I mean, I got to give him credit. I mean, listen, okay, he had an injury, in the second quarter, and that's why he looked, I guess, bad in the second quarter on. But look, I mean, we're really overrating Jimmy Garoppolo here. I mean, there are times, forget about the injury in that game. There were times where he was throwing into double coverage, not knowing, what defense is, in front of him. Look, I just don't see what you guys are seeing in Jimmy Garoppolo. Look, I'm not saying he's terrible. That's never been my standpoint with Jimmy Garoppolo. But as far as, a top, you guys are talking like he's top 10, top 12. I think he's probably around. No, you guys are talking like that. I mean, this guy is probably,
I wouldn't say that. I never say that.
He's top 30.
He's not a game manager. Please don't.
You were saying we were smoking last week. You guys were saying we were smoking last week. I think you're smoking this week, Brian.
What'd you say, Paul?
Yeah, Brian. So, but you've been dancing around it. Let's put some money where your mouth is here. So you said, he's not great, but he's not a game manager. Then what's that middle category, Brian? What is it?
He's a game manager. Point blank.
What he is a solid professional starting quarterback. That's what he is. He's a solid NFL starting quarterback. His biggest problem is his inability to stay healthy. That's his biggest problem.
Double coverage and
if you look at the dude's career, look at the dude's career. He's played double digit. Now, some of these were obviously behind Tom Brady, but if you go from 2017 to now, which is a span of 5 seasons, he's played double-figure games just twice.
We fully understand he gets hurt, but that's not the only thing that's
no. But I'm saying, say for instance, he's finishing these seasons that he's getting hurt, right? Like, so in 2019 is the only time he ever played, all 16 games. Okay. A shade under 4,000 yards passing, 27 touchdown passes, 13 picks, 69% completion rate, 102 passer rating. Those are decent numbers. Those are solid numbers. Those are not your elite quarterback numbers, but they certainly aren't a game manager number either. So that's my point. That's who I believe Jimmy Garoppolo is. Unfortunately, this is the first time he's been healthy since 2019. So, and this year his numbers are comparable again to that season. He's at just under 3,500 yards with we'll say 2 games left, even though we are comparing it to a 16-game season. But he's with 2 games left. He's just a shade under 3,500 yards, 19 touchdowns, 10 picks. The completion rating is right around the same place.
19 touchdowns, 10 picks. That's good to you. 19 touchdowns.
It's better than 19.
That's not. I think he peaked in 2019. I think 2019 is almost 3 years ago. We're approaching 2022. I don't know if you knew that.
I've been here the whole time.
We're in another decade now. But
Brian, would you say Alex Smith is a game manager? Would you say that?
No.
Oh, okay. Because I was about to say, I got some Alex Smith stats here that are better than Jimmy Garoppolo's, and I'm like, well, he's captain game.
Okay, so Matt Ryan has 19 touchdown passes and 11 picks this year.
I don't think he's top 12. I don't think he's around there. I think
where would you put Kyler Murray?
What?
Where would we put Kyler Murray?
I'd probably definitely over those 2.
Okay, but he has 21 touchdown passes and 10 picks. He only has 2 more touchdown passes than
better. And second of all, you want to look at the injury.
And we're going to talk about who they're throwing to.
3 weeks, a couple of weeks ago. Come on, losing Hopkins. He has Kittle. He has Debo in these games.
Come on, give me a break. Guys. No,
Shanahan's better than Kingsbury too. Do you think Shanahan's better than Kingsbury?
Do I think Shanahan's better than Kingsbury?
Yeah.
I don't.
In terms of offensive play calling.
I think Kyle Shanahan is severely overrated. I think Kyle Shanahan is severely overrated.
Good Lord.
Whoa.
Oh my God.
Wow.
Severely overrated.
Jesus.
See, you want to talk about peaking in 2019? You want to talk about peaking in 2019? Oh, wow.
I didn't know you loved Jimmy G this much. I'm very shocked.
I
know. See, I can see why you love Mac Jones so much.
That makes sense.
Average quarterbacks.
You connected the dots.
You love average quarterbacks, Brian. You have to admit that.
I'm a Bears fan. All I know is average quarterbacks.
Yeah. You get used to it over time.
Average lovemaking going on. We need to start asking wives on here about average lovemaking. That's what's happening right now.
Like he's a solid play caller, but he's not this genius that people have made him out to be.
Oof! Wow,
he's not.
He's a genius. Come on,
he's an ebb and flow.
Where are the trophies?
Yeah, he's an ebb and flow kind of coach. It's like whatever works, he's going to go with. Yeah.
Where are the trophies and the accolades to back up this guy who's supposed to be this genius offensive coordinator? This genius.
Where's the accolade for Jimmy Garoppolo?
My question was,
but I'm not claiming he's great. All I'm saying is this: Jimmy G is a solid starting NFL quarterback. He's not a fantastic quarterback, but he's not a game manager who's just only throw 11 passes and don't turn it over and we're good. That's selling him a little too
He
short.
had 6 passes against the Packers in a championship game, Brian. Did you know
Okay,
that?
so,
He had 6
but that was a
passes.
game
Six
plan
passes.
situation.
6 passes, man. This wasn't a game where Mac Jones is doing it in the Arctic. That
Guys,
wasn't the case in that situation.
Put that aside. What about the Super Bowl? With what? How long? 6-7 minutes ago, the 49ers are up, 10? And they blow it? All Jimmy Garoppolo has to do is complete a couple of passes. He wins, and he loses. Patrick Mahomes won the game. Jimmy Garoppolo lost the game.
No,
it wasn't even that throw either. It was other than that.
And the game that you're talking about, he threw 8 passes. He completed 6 of 8 passes. Here's the thing.
Okay.
But here's the thing. They won the game.
Right,
and I hate to channel my Herm
and they won by
Edwards
17. Yeah.
I hate to channel my Herm Edwards, but you play to win the game. Is
that
not
play to be a game?
Hello.
Garoppolo, you play to be a game manager for Jimmy Garoppolo.
That's right. That's what he did.
What you do.
That was the game plan.
That's what you do.
That was the game plan. That's what he did. He threw 8 passes. He completed 6 of them. I don't know what else you want. And they won the game by 17 points.
And whenever it comes to the 49ers, you see the trickery, you see the reverses in that offense. You didn't see that with Matt
and yardage.
You did not see that with Matt Ryan when it came to Shanahan. Shanahan knew who Matt Ryan was. He was going to go the distance with him. Garoppolo, you're seeing all this magical, plays, Deebo Samuel going this left and right.
Plays.
You got Jeff Wilson. I mean, this is a team that
you know what? You know who else does a lot of that? You know who else does a lot of that? You know who else? Matt Nagy.
Mm-hmm.
Trickery doesn't mean nothing to me. I want you to gain yards, first downs, and get in the end zone.
There's a reason why he does that with Garoppolo.
He has to make up for his deficiencies.
Yeah, that's the truth, Brian. I mean, I'm sorry to tell you.
I'm not saying that. Okay, if he's so deficient, why did he not want to trade him when you already had the quarterback that you wanted to move forward with?
First of all, I didn't even talk about Trey Lance. I think he's probably a project, and they knew that Garoppolo was worth a lot. And you know what? I got to say, Garoppolo hasn't been terrible. That's never been my, MO. I've never said that Garoppolo is terrible. I'm just telling you he's average.
He's basic.
He's average.
He's basic.
Plain and simple. And I think average Garoppolo is better than Lance as of right now. But you're here to tell me that the potential Trey Lance is not better than Garoppolo right now?
No, I never said that. When did I say that? I never said that.
Come on.
I never said that. I know Trey Lance's potential is leaps and bounds ahead of what Jimmy Garoppolo will ever be.
That just tells you that Garoppolo's average then.
No, that just tells you that Trey Lance is
tells you he's going to be
fantastic talent, that if he tops out, we're talking about an elite dude who we hardly have seen people like this guy. That's what Trey Lance's ceiling is. Like, he's some mixture between Cam Newton and Russell Wilson. That's his ceiling. If he gets there, Jimmy Garoppolo will never be that, but that doesn't make him an average guy or trash.
Brian, was he worth the $150 million contract he got, Jimmy Garoppolo?
No. Doesn't mean he's trash either. That doesn't mean he's trash either.
You're answering your own questions.
There's a bunch of guys playing who are not trash, who not like before this season. Robert Quinn was not worth the contract.
Definitely not. I think we all agreed on that.
He's trash. It just meant that he got paid more than he earned.
I guess it just means he's better than mine. I guess that's what that means.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I think y'all are being a little hard on Jimmy. We got to get to the place where we got more of a middle ground with these assessments on people. We hit these players over the head, and they either the people talking about them like they're godlike, or either they're trash. There's no middle.
No,
there's no middle.
Well, I mean, there is.
Ryan, we're both giving you middles with Garoppolo. I think he's average. I'm not saying he's terrible. I'm saying he's in the middle.
And he is the middle. That's what we're just talking about, Brian.
That's my point.
You know why I say that he's the thing that hurts Jimmy more than anything is the injuries. If Jimmy's not injured, I think we have him in an entirely different category, because he would have a history of production. Because he's never available, that history of production, the last real memory we have of him before this year is 2019, when he leading a team to a Super Bowl, or helping guiding a team to a Super Bowl. That's the last real consistent memory we have, because he sat through 2020. But we got to move on, because Ryan's insane, and I want to help him. He's
I'm not caping like I'm related to Garoppolo.
Oh, there we go. Cardinals topic.
I don't know.
Cardinals topic.
I know you're more acting like you're dating Kyle Shanahan. Is what
I think it's Brian Garoppolo, to be honest with you. I think your last name, I think you got to change it. To be honest.
I think that you are Ryan Shanahan. You don't even have to change your initials. You're already ready. All right. Now, where is the panic level for the Cardinals and Kyler Murray, who you're making excuses for, despite the fact that they're on a 3-game losing streak? At this point, what are we thinking? I honestly, I'm starting to think with the Cardinals that they're turning into pumpkins. It was looking a lot like a Cinderella season, but the loss to the Lions was especially alarming. Like that's like the Colts are a good team.
Yeah,
Colts are a good team, and Colts are playing good football. So that is what it is. But when you sandwich an 18-point loss in between 2 close losses to the Rams and the Colts, and then when you look at the fact you got the Dallas Cowboys next, now the Seahawks at the end of the season, that is what it is. Maybe the Seahawks play some inspired football because it could be Russell Wilson's last game with the team. I don't know what happens, but I'm worried about the Cardinals. As far as obviously they're already in the playoffs, but they are looking like a one and done to me. They are looking like a one and done team, especially if DeAndre Hopkins cannot not only return, but return and play at a high level. And I'm going to tell you something about another guy who people are talking about. Oh, he might be ready to play by the time the postseason comes around. J.J. Watt. Nobody freaking cares. J.J. Watt's not – this is not Houston Texan J.J. Watt. He's not creating the same type of havoc that he used to create. So my panic level for the Cardinals is through the freaking roof. Through the roof. The roof is on fire. We don't need no water. Let that mother burn because the panic level is high. I don't know about you. What do you say, Paul?
I got to be honest, man. I feel teased. I feel led astray. I just feel deceived. I feel deceived.
This is the second time I thought you was going to give me the Malcolm X thing.
I said that
Yeah. You know, the fact of the matter is I feel deceived. The Cardinals, man, I've been on this bandwagon all year, and it felt great. What great highs, but great lows. You know, I've been dating this girl for a little bit. Things are going great. A good couple of dates. All of a sudden, I got ghosted. Whoa, where was she? What's happening? All of a sudden, she's getting distant. She's not answering my texts, not answering my calls. I feel deceived. I feel lied to. And that hurts. You know what? Because I would have just rather the Band-Aid be pulled off in the beginning. I just knew what I was getting. But you know what? I was, again, deceived and lied to. And quite frankly, you know what? This team, I agree, will be one and done. They're over. And it's one of those relationships that I'm in denial over. Because there were signs. The Lions, that was a sign, a red flag, like, oh, no, get out of the relationship now. But I said, no, it's okay. We've had a good thing going. There was a track record here. Broken. There was some chutzpah. But no. Red flag. And my friends are saying, get out. It's over. What are you doing, man? There's red flags left and right here. Get out. And I said, I can't. I'm in love. They're like, you've known it for 5 seconds. I'm like, I'm in love, man. It's too late. I just bought the ring yesterday. That's what the Cardinals have done to me. And you know what? The Cardinals are fake. Fire Cliff Kingsbury. Get rid of him. Blow up the whole thing.
Wow.
Because last year.
See, there you go. I left.
There we go.
I was in the car with you, and I jumped out.
The Cardinals were going to do something, and they folded like a used lawn chair. This year, they fall on the side of the road like a sack of potatoes. I mean, it's just disgusting. And it just happens year after year after year. I'm in, and then I'm out. I'm in, and then I'm out. I want some consistency in a relationship. I just want some consistency. And the Cardinals, yet, I'm not going to get it. Teased is how I feel. It's just a facade, an oasis that never exists in the desert.
Yeah, I think I was with you, and then you just started smoking all the drugs, and I had to leave.
Get a little crazy everyone.
He had his moment.
Yeah, well, no, they cannot fire Cliff Kingsbury. I do think though he might have coughed up Coach of the Year these last 3. The only thing that's saving him is that his
Go back to
primary
college.
competition is on a 2-game losing streak too.
Mm.
That's the only thing that's
Back to
gonna
college,
that could
Cliff.
potentially save him. But what do you say, Lorenzo?
An asteroid hit Arizona. That's why the roof is on fire. It has been engulfed in flames. I mean, that dry heat's also not helping Arizona. I mean, it's one thing to lose to the Colts, but the Lions, that's like your little sister trying to fight you for the football, and your little sister kicks you in the nuts and runs away laughing. That
Is
was
that what
like,
it is? That
yeah,
might have
that's
been the
what it is.
most.
Yeah.
That might have been the strangest analogy I've ever heard in my life. I don't know if I'm scared or just confused.
The panic level is high for me, especially considering the fact they might be on the road. They might have to
Well,
go back
my
to Dallas.
panic level is high because you just used an analogy about a little girl kicking somebody in the nuts. Compared, I'm very afraid.
Good
Me
Lord.
personally,
That's what the Lions.
I'm okay. So I don't know.
So you're gonna drug test me? Are
Kick.
you gonna drug test me now?
What happened? See, scaring me more, Ryan. Ryan, what's going on? Can you help?
Yeah, I'll try to
help me and Lorenzo
I'll
because
try to simmer the fire. I'll try
thank
to,
you.
you know.
Thank
All right,
you.
thank you.
Got you. Yeah, I can't sugarcoat it, man. You know, I'm a writer for the Cardinals, you know, heavy on Cardinals, and reading a lot of the comments, you know, Paul said it, fire Cliff Kingsbury, you know, bench Murray for Colt McCoy. That's how crazy it can be in Arizona land right now. Yeah, I can't sugarcoat it. This is really bad. I mean, just 13, 14 days ago, they could have just beaten the Rams and taken that division title most likely, and they could have just okay, they made. I'm not going to say they could lose the Lions, but you know, you had a nice matchup with the Lions, and then the Colts on Christmas Day. They didn't have Quentin Nelson, Darius Leonard. They didn't have 3 starting offensive linemen, and then they lost another one, and then their tight end Jack Doyle was out. So this has gone way too far. Cliff Kingsbury is not going to get fired. Let me just say that. But you know, his game management. I think the biggest key in terms of this, you know, losing streak has to be Cliff Kingsbury's time management. I mean, I haven't just seen it, you know, in this game. I saw it in the Rams as well. The Lions game, you know, I think everyone was just in a funk. You know, it's one of those things where they had a hangover, and it's not justified at all to have a hangover. But you know, the Rams and the Colts games, they just did not know how to use the clock at the end. Murray didn't go for that Hail Mary, you know, against the Rams on that last play. Wouldn't you tell Murray, look, we're going to get a play. We're going to get something going in that drive, and that didn't happen. So I think it's the game management. And also, like you said, with DeAndre Hopkins being out, that's a killer. But I think the offensive line, you saw the center in prime time. He just botched 2 snaps, Max Garcia. So they didn't have Rodney Hudson. No one even says that. They didn't have Rodney Hudson. They're all pro center that they stole away from the Las Vegas Raiders. So these, I told you, I think I said it 3 or 4 weeks ago. Before all of this happened, I think we were trying to find, you know, maybe like an angle, try to find something with the Cardinals in the playoffs. What's good? What's the one thing that can hurt this team? And I said probably home field, which is correct. They've lost 2 of the last 3 games at home. And B, 1 and 2, A and B, injuries. And Hopkins was hurt, you know, a week or 2 later. Ronnie Hudson gets COVID. So I think those are the 2 things right there. And I think the biggest thing has to be the injuries as well. They can't have that happen. Such unluck for that to happen. But you know what? You're looking at all these teams, all these COVID situations. It's happening everywhere. You can't just excuse it, you know? So I think the Cardinals, what they have to do in these next 2 weeks, look like a football team. Look like a football team. That's what they have to do. And they haven't looked like a football team. They lose out on points with Matt Prater missing those kicks. They don't have a placeholder. So they just have to look like a football team these next 2 weeks. Who cares about what happens in the playoffs? Honestly, no one had the Cardinals even getting to the playoffs before the season. Did anyone have the Cardinals in the playoffs before this year?
No. We talked about that a few weeks ago. He's lying. He's lying in a major way, and it is very disgusting the way he can blatantly lie in front of everyone. But yeah, we talked about this a few weeks ago, how most people had him in 3rd or 4th place.
I was 1.
You know, so they've already overachieved, but I'm sure they don't want to just completely crap the pull up the way they have over the last 2 weeks. So we'll see what happens. last but not least, Mr. Esden, what are your panic level for the Cardinals?
Yeah, like I already said it earlier.
I'm sorry. I got lost in Sanudos. You know,
So the Jets
Fire
topic
questions,
is next.
Barry,
Yeah.
remember?
he
Get rid of
spun
everybody.
me. He
Yeah.
spun
I had
me
to
in
bring
a circle.
out the facts, with my whole 4 or 5 minute speech. Had to
You
do it.
spun me, and it was very. As you see, I was mystified. All right, our next and final question is: what is the most underrated need for the Jets this offseason? And Paul, I want to start with you because you are the resident masochist. I mean, Jets fan. So yeah.
Yes. Well, thank you. I am honored to take the mantle here for first place.
Mhm.
Here's the thing I'll say is, they got a lot of needs, obviously, when you got 4 wins on the season. I mean, we could go all day. But I would say a super underrated one was highlighted by what the Bengals did to the Baltimore Ravens. And what I saw from there is, Joe Burrow's got all kinds of toys. And Zach Wilson will be hoping for that in a belated sense under the Christmas tree is T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd, Jamar Chase, Joe Mixon. CJ Uzama even. They got talent all over the place. I think that the underrated need for the Jets is wide receiver. On the surface, you would say, what? Corey Davis, Elijah Moore, Denzel Mims? I don't know about that one. But the point is that you would say on the surface, the wide receivers seem pretty good. But I would say for a young quarterback, you can never have enough weapons. So the Jets have 2 first-round picks in the upcoming 2022 NFL draft. Thank you, Seattle. And I would say with that Seattle first rounder, I would heavily be considering one of those talented, juicy, delectable wide receivers. Drake London, perhaps. Jameson Williams. Who knows? There are so many guys out there that I would be interested in. I think it is the most underrated need. More weapons for Zach Wilson is always a good thing. And I think Elijah Moore is a budding star, and Corey Davis had an uncharacteristic year. He's got to bounce back next year. I think more wide receiver help would be much needed and much underrated for the New York Jets.
Yeah, I can definitely see that, especially if, like we talked about before, if they lose Jamison Crowder. What about you, Sanudo?
I have to agree with Paul. There's so many needs that a lot of Jets fans already know about those needs. Corner. Even though I've seen a lot of great things out of Bryce Hall, and even Pinnock, on Sunday looked really good. But I got to say, wide receiver is a need for the Jets. And look, I will counter with Paul. Like I think Corey Davis had a better year than Jets fans think. If you look at the stats, he did look out of sorts in games, but you're with a rookie quarterback, that can happen. You still have another 2 years with this deal. He looked tremendous in Tennessee. I expect that to happen next year. But once you lose those 2 guys, Elijah Moore, Corey Davis, you see a drop off. You see drop offs like that with mostly any team. So, you have Braxton Berrios, all these guys, Keelan Cole, that are like 5s or 6s on certain teams, maybe 4 for Berrios, if you're being nice. But I got to say, like, once Jameson Williams is around that range for the Jets, you go grab him. If you have that Seattle Seahawks pick, I know that they need defense badly for the Jets, but look, Paul hit it right in the head. You need weapons for your young quarterback. You already have the running backs. And you can still get guys, in other areas in free agency, but a lot, you're looking at these Justin Jeffersons, Jalen Waddles, Jamar Chases, man. It's just, you can't go wrong with these guys, man. Like, and if you just get one of them, you have Corey Davis, Elijah Moore, and you can still keep Berrios, or maybe you still have Keelan Cole for another year. But man, that would be such a great improvement that you haven't been seeing in previous years with Sam Darnold, with no-name wide receivers after Robbie Anderson. So and obviously you're going to lose Jameson Crowder most likely. So you go and grab a wide receiver. I would not be opposed to it. And if you don't do in the first round, do it in the second round. And there's always some guys that are, available in the second round for wide receivers. And I think that's what they should do.
And what about you, Lorenzo?
Now, I think it was about a month ago I mentioned Derek Stingley as my top need for the Jets at corner. Well, I'm still a believer that the Jets can still get Stingley, but I will say this, and this is my most underrated need for the Jets, but I'm only saying this on the fact that if he's available, I say take him. Kayvon Thibodeau. Here's the reason why I say that. The fact that Robert Saleh being a defensive guy, being the guy who coached the Nick Bosa, being the guy who also coached Eric Armstead, who started at Oregon, to me, it's like it could be a match made in heaven for Robert Saleh. Get a guy from the Ducks, get a guy who's like Mr. All Everything in high school. Then he lived up to the expectations at Oregon, and then you put him in a position where he could go after Mac Jones, Tua Tagovailoa, all those guys. I mean, to me, it's like that Robert Saleh having a freak of nature pass rusher that could help the Jets immensely.
Yeah, I guess I would ask, isn't edge rusher like one of their like most well-known needs though?
There's so many needs. I mean, wide receiver. I mean, I agree with the receivers. I mean, Jamison Crowder possibly might be a 49er. I mean, might be playing in the NFC. I don't want to say tight end because I mean Paul loves Dustin Kill, so it's like I'm gonna avoid tight end.
No Dustin Keller.
Yeah. I'm not gonna do any killer slander, but yeah.
They got Carl Lawson, so I mean they're gonna have him next year. So Carl Lawson, and I did say in a previous broadcast them getting Hassan Reddick if they were to go the edge rusher route in free agency, so they could do that too.
Well, for me, honestly, man, it's defensive tackle. I think that is their most underrated need. If you look at where they are right now, stopping the run, only the Steelers have given up more yards on the ground in the NFL. They have been gashed up the middle running the football, and they have to get more stout at the point of attack. And I mean, we've seen over the years how the presence of one, block absorbing guy in the middle, or two, depending on what kind of system you're running. One block absorbing guy in the middle of a defensive line can change the whole way that a team defends the run. And I think that the Jets are missing that kind of a presence, clearly, because of how the people are running the ball on them consistently. So for me, I think it's defensive tackle. A lot of times that's not the sexiest pick. People are like, defensive tackles. Yeah, I guess, I don't know. Maybe Albert Hainsworth is the one who ruined that for everybody. Because as of right now, the crazy thing is if you look at CBS Sports' most recent mock draft, there is not a single, I think the only defensive tackle that they have going in the first round is Georgia's Jordan Davis, 6'6", 330 pounds. He's the only one that is tabbed to be drafted in the first round. So this does not appear to be, at least on paper, a super strong draft for interior defensive linemen. But that doesn't mean it's still not the Jets' most underrated need. So that would be my answer to that question.
Brian, just a quick follow-up is I think you're right. I think that is obviously a super underrated need. The rush defense would think that it's obvious, but it's really not with all the bodies they have. I want to put you on the spot here. So the draft, obviously, it seems like with 2 top 10 picks, that's not going to happen. But is there a free agent? Is there someone that fits the bill? I agree. It is a massively underrated need. They're probably going to let Foley Fatukasi go. The money's going to be too rich. So who is a guy that could be available in free agency that could be that fit for the Jets as a run-stuffing, hog-molly, nasty defensive tackle in the trenches? Give me your Vince Wilfork, okay? Your Albert Hainsworth pre-stomping on someone.
Not Albert Hainsworth. Anybody but Albert. Albert ruined it for everyone. Like,
that's what I'm looking for. That nasty
Albert Hainsworth was the guy who just simply, for all defensive tackles, I'm not even sure that we've ever heard of another defensive tackle prospect since then who people look at and say, oh, well, this guy could be, he could be this or he could be that. I don't think we've seen that yet. But there is somebody who could become a free agent after this season. There is a potential out. We'll see how it goes. He's struggled to stay on the field a bit, but Star Lotulelei is playing for the Buffalo Bills right now. He has an out after this year and can become a free agent, because I'm not sure that the Jets are going to want to throw a ton of money there. I think they would more or less like to go the draft route to find a difference maker, because they've got an opportunity to watch Christian Barmore for the Patriots. So I have seen him twice. He's made a really big impact on the interior defensive line. He's coming up on setting a record for most QB pressures for a rookie interior defensive lineman. this year. He's had a really big impact on run and pass defense. So I think they would be more apt to go to fill that need in the draft than they would be through free agency.
I also want to add too, and I did mention you want to go the free agent routes and also staying on the topic. I know he's more of a nose, but I did mention his name about a month ago, and it kind of blew Paul away because his name is a mouthful. Sebastian Joseph Day.
Night.
So like I don't know what the situation is with the Rams with whether or not they want to actually re-sign him to a mega deal, especially since they brought in Von Miller, Odell Beckham, all these high-priced free agents. But he is due to be a free agent for 2022. And as I mentioned before, he is a New Jersey guy. He played at Rutgers. He grew up in what he called the Dirty Jers. So, maybe he could be somebody of value. The problem is he's still young. He's still –
what's his name again?
Sebastian Joseph Day.
Just call him SJD.
Bash.
And I got another one more name for you before we bounce out of here.
Okay.
Who is a little up there in age, but still very productive when healthy. Chicago Bears offensive tackle Akeem Hicks is a free agent.
Ooh, I love Akeem Hicks. Okay.
And Akeem Hicks is a big, nasty individual on the defensive line. Khalil Mack would attest to that defensively, they're not the same when Akeem is not playing. So, but Sebastian Joseph Day is listed as the number one guy at the number one free agent interior defensive lineman by multiple publications, including the Pro Football Network. So it's interesting. But Akeem Hicks is on that list as well. So just a few things for you guys, for you long-suffering Jet fans out there. Keep it churning.
So Paul, I have one more name for you. He's on the 49ers, and he does have that tie-in to Robert Saleh. Maurice Hurst. Maurice Hurst kind of got lost in
Michigan. Yes.
Yeah, Maurice Hurst kind of got lost in the defensive line shuffle for the 49ers. He's another UFA for next season. So, Hurst being a guy who, he probably knows Saleh's system, probably be a good fit as well, especially if they don't get Bash.
Definitely. I can understand that would make sense because he does know Saleh's system. And that might be probably the most practical suggestion of anybody that we mentioned because he knows the system. So, but I appreciate you guys as always. Appreciate everybody who's watching. If you have not yet liked the video, please do so. If you have not yet subscribed to the channel, do that as well. As always, I appreciate you watching. God bless.
Happy 2022, everybody.
Amen to that.